Hey everybody, this is Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman. As always, on a Tuesday, I'm joined by these fine gentlemen, Kirk Bowles, Cedric Golden. This is Longhorn Confidential. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, listening to this on your favorite podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. But we're here to talk about Texas football, as we do. Texas, 4-2, 2-1 Big 12 play. Y'all already know that. Y'all already know how Texas got to this 49-0 win over Oklahoma this past weekend. Kirk, you've seen a lot of Red River showdowns. I don't think you've ever seen a game like this. Said too, I think you said this was maybe 25 for you. I think this is 10 for me. We're especially lately used to seeing Texas kind of on the losing end of some close games, some heartbreaking games, but this was a blowout. This was a rout. This was a romp. I guess the question for both you and Kirk, you can go first. Is Texas 49-0 good? Is Oklahoma 49-0 bad, or is this a combination of both? And Saturday was just a crazy day.
Well, both were true on Saturday at the Cotton Bowl, as we saw it before our very eyes. This truly may be the worst Oklahoma team I've ever seen. Even the bad ones you're used to them scoring because they always have some offensive talent. And it just amazed me how Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby, their OC, just completely abandoned the passing game and just we are all in on the Wildcat. And Wildcat is not meant to be a staple or a base offense. And it just didn't work. And you can see the interception on the pop pass by Jahdae Barron coming a mile away. You knew they were going to do that. But the fact that they didn't trust their backup quarterback or their five backup quarterbacks, if you will, enough to throw the ball and have a semblance of a passing threat is beyond me. I mean, Texas had 36 first downs. Oklahoma had 11. I don't remember the 11. I'm surprised they had that many. It was the most lopsided margin in OU football history against any team. So it was monumentally bad by Oklahoma. But Texas, I believe in them. They're playing solid. They're playing with confidence. And, they didn't throw a pass in the fourth quarter. Got the ball 15 plays and ran them all 15. Hudson Card never threw a pass. So, we all know it could have been a lot worse. So it just was a picture of extremes.
Bert Auburn got to make that field goal, get the 50 burger. Never scored a 50 burger against the Sooners.
That was their
They're
chance.
not complaining. A 49-0 whitewashing, man. OU's historically bad. That's and the thing, if I'm a Sooner fan, that would bother me more than anything is that Brent Venables conceded that he wasn't going to throw the football. You're not going to beat anybody running the Wildcat, not at this level, not at this level. And so the fact that they just didn't even try, and you can hurt Texas with crossing routes. I want the Texas Tech game is proof of that. You can hurt them with crossing routes. You can make those linebackers try and cover people in space. They didn't even try. They didn't even try. And so as far as the Horns go, that was a seminal moment in the Sarkisian era. That's a turning point. Now, can they take that act on the road where it's not 50-50 split in the stands? Can they take that act to Stillwater? Can they take that act to the Little Apple? Can they take that act to Lawrence, which is no longer a pleasure trip? That's a business trip now. That remains to be seen. But on that afternoon, they showed what they are capable of in all three areas: offense, defense, special teams. They were excellent in each. But Bert Auburn, you got to make that kick.
I think Bert's made enough big kicks.
He
Big
made
kicks.
eight in a
No
row
need to hold
before.
that one against him. But as you said, I mean, this Oklahoma team was not the Oklahoma teams we've seen in the past. I'll leave it to the historians to say how bad it is, or our friends at the Oklahoman. But still, Texas still shut this team out. And the first time since 1965 that's happened. This is probably the first shutout of significance for this Texas defense in probably about 3 decades. I think I went back to 1991 to find one because, even a bad team, at like a ULM or Kansas before Kansas was this year's Kansas team can still sneak in a touchdown or two, whether it's against the scrubs or, a turnover happens. They have good field positions, but Texas did not allow that. Even when their second and third stringers were in late in the game, they were still refusing to give up first downs, refusing to give up any points. So a shutout's really impressive for this Texas defense. And That's just kind of the theme of the season on the defensive side of the football. Only Texas Tech has scored more than 20 points against the Texas defense, and they've faced some good offenses, whether it's Alabama, whether it's Tech, obviously, which got 37, whether it's West Virginia, whether what we thought Oklahoma was. UTSA, veteran quarterback, a good offense there too. So overall, Texas is allowing 17.8 points a game. That's a top 25 scoring defense right now. What is working on this Texas defense? Because that is clearly not what we expected when we went into this season. We expected maybe another year of struggles under PK. We expected a hot seat, but we did not expect the defense to be as strong as it is in complementing what has been a good offense.
Getting some bending on break, Danny. You're getting some bending on break. They may they're giving up some yards, but they're not giving up points. They are getting off the field. They couldn't get off the field in Lubbock, and they lost. But here lately, they're getting off the field. They're putting enough pressure on the quarterbacks. They're holding up on the back end, which was a concern early. And so when those things start to come together, I know that Alabama was a loss, but the fact that they got after Bryce Young like they did and limited the big plays. I know the Gibbs kid had a big, long touchdown catch. But besides that, they've been really good outside of Lubbock. And so I think getting off the field, bending on break, being another year in the system under PK, the Gary Patterson effect that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but a couple of OV Gofu was very complimentary of GP. I just think all of those things are in the mix, have gone into what's been a successful defense so far.
Well, and they're getting to the quarterback. They got 8 sacks the last 3 games.
That's a lot.
What do they have? 20 last year? And I think they have maybe 14 already. So they're getting to the quarterback, and they're not doing it with one guy, fellas. It's just there's not one dynamic. Oh my God, they've got a Will Anderson on that defensive front. They're all bringing pressure. I mean, Devondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, Baron Sorrell, Morrow, Ovi, just kind of go down the list, and they're not blitzing that much. I really like this secondary. They finally got a couple more takeaways. They have 4 now, but on the year, their turnover margin is 0, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty good stat for a 4-2 team, and I think they're only going to get better. Anthony Cook's having a heck of a year. Jaron Thompson, wow, look what he's doing. Jahdae Barron's got 2 picks, 6 or 2 interceptions already, same as Deshaun Jameson. And I was kidding Jahdae. I said, did you get on Deshaun? He said, yeah. Can you let me have some glory here? He had to match his interception.
Why are you trying to keep up with me? I like that.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty funny. But boy, they have confidence, and they're tackling really well, don't you think, guys? You don't see many plays where running back slips out of 2 tackles and there he goes for 36 yards. So the tackling is really improved.
I'm gonna tell you, when it's the Wildcat, it's amazing how much better you are.
Sure.
It's just gonna be a run play.
Yeah. What do you think the secret is, Danny?
We had this argument, I think, earlier this season where we were talking about Gary and how much credit Gary deserves for this turnaround. But I think part of it's just these are older, more mature players, and this is the second system. I think Obi said it best yesterday when someone asked him about that at the Monday press availability, is talking about there's less teaching because they've been in the system for a year. They kind of know how it works. I think, Pete wouldn't have got this job if he wasn't a good coach, if there wasn't a good coach somewhere in there. And so I think you just give him a year. Obviously, Gary probably helps a little bit, and these players are just more mature. You have 5-year guys in there, Deshaun Jameson, DeMarvion Overshown. Those guys are Ovi. Those are older, more mature. Keandre Coburn, Morrow. Those are older guys who, know this is it and have played a lot of football in their life. They're not relying on a lot of young guys. Even like a guy like Jalen Ford is a 3rd-year linebacker. So this is a more mature group, probably a prideful group that knows that they gave up 57 points to Kansas last year and want to turn this around. So I just think that's probably just a combination of just another year in the system, some mature, talented players who are, knowing this is kind of their last ride, and they're just playing obviously very, very well and getting schemed up pretty good. It's just I guess a check all the boxes, all of the above, and it's just working out for this.
Didn't Sark mention Patterson Monday, guys? I thought he kind of
Good.
slipped Gary's name in there about scheming up, and he
First
just.
time.
I'm just surprised he hadn't given more credit to Coach Quit. He rarely mentions him, so
But
I
once
don't
again,
know.
I said this before. Like, I believe Steve was asked about Gary. I think there was a
Okay,
direct question about Gary.
okay,
Steve has a tendency not to give his players or his coaches shout outs
right.
unless
He
he is
doesn't.
specifically asked, because it's a we, not me kind of mentality. So, if we want to ask about Pete, I think that's partly on us to make sure that we ask about
Mhm.
Pete, ask about Jeff Choate, ask about Terry Joseph. We want to ask specific questions about
Right.
coaches. He was asked about Gary. And a loose was like how's the defense going? How's Gary contributing to
Yeah.
this defense? And I think that's
Okay.
how that answer came about.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Who was it? Janae Barron, who had the great quote about being so loud on the plane. Said, I think you mentioned that in your Nuggets. That Coach Terry Joseph said, "Hey, quiet down a little
Down
bit."
back there, yeah.
Hey, you just shut
That's
out
the best.
Oklahoma
I'm gonna tell you,
49
that's
nothing.
the best kind of noise. Can you
Yeah,
imagine that flight back?
yeah.
They've been waiting on a game like that, man, and good for them. They put in the work, and I always, I like music, so I always put it like, you don't believe a blues singer that's never been through anything. The Horns have been through it, man. They've been through
Mhm.
it. They've endured 6-game losing streaks, national ridicule after losing to Kansas, and they can't beat OU. And all of a sudden, this one win could light a switch for them. It could. I don't know that it
It looks
will. We'll
real. It
see.
looks real.
It looks real, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see, and we'll see this weekend against Iowa State. We'll see in Stillwater. We'll see in Lawrence. We'll see in the Little Apple. Their tests coming up. They're not going to just roll over because they beat a bad Oklahoma team, but it does make the Big 12 a whole lot more interesting this season.
All right, let's talk about offense. We are through 6 games of this season. Obviously, if Texas is 4-2, do the math, that's 6 games. Since we're at the halfway point, let's talk offensive MVP. If you were to pick one offensive MVP for this team, there's obvious candidates like, Bijan Robinson, who's just been incredible throughout the season. There may be stealth candidates like Jake Majors being the center, or Quinn Ewers, who has missed time, but this offense has looked really good when he's been back there, whether it's the Oklahoma game or obviously that first quarter of the Alabama game. So, Seth, we'll start with you. Who's your offensive MVP on this Texas team?
It's got to be Bijan Robinson, because what he does is he takes a lot of pressure off these quarterbacks, off these linemen, because he's just so consistent. He can catch the ball. He's been a bigger presence in the locker room that can't go overlooked, and he's quietly putting together a great season. He's going to end up with another 12, 1,300 yards, and he's doing it in an unassuming fashion. He hasn't let the money go to his head because he's got plenty of it, and I just think he's the prototypical team leader who doesn't let the off the field riches or whatever he's got affect what's happening on Saturday afternoon. I think he's an easy choice for MVP of the offense.
And he's like the most humble superstar. Ivan Melendez was, almost devoid of ego last year when we watched him slug all those home runs in the spring. But, and I kidded Bijan yesterday about, where's your Heisman campaign, and he is so unassuming and so humble. And he mentioned how he got hurt in last year's game against the Cyclones and fumbled a couple of times. Said, I'm going to go rewatch the tape. Boy, that's when your best player on the team is saying stuff like that, kind of calling out himself, and he's probably never going to get over that fumble in overtime against Texas Tech. I mean, he's just what you would want in kind of the face of the team and kind of the guts of the team. By the time the season's over, maybe it'll be Quinn Ewers, because he's coming on like a house of fire. And boy, one big shout out to Kelvin Banks, that left tackle. I mean, this freshman, I don't really call him kid. He's a young adult, young man is what he is. But we just haven't noticed him. Unless you just kind of follow him on your binoculars, you don't really follow him play by play. But the fact that he's keeping the pocket cleaner this year than they had problems doing that last year is just boy, it's nice seeing his feistiness against Oklahoma too. So he's not a guy you want to mess with. So Xavier Worthy hadn't quite got untracked yet, but I'd go in on Bijan all day long. Who you got, Danny?
Yeah, this is probably akin to a participation trophy, but I think Hudson Card deserves a little love for the way
Definitely.
he played because he did his job. This offense is not. This offense is Quinn Ewers' offense, and Quinn Ewers was the clear choice to be the starting quarterback. But when you have a starting quarterback go down, as Quinn did, this team could have completely unraveled. And Hudson came in, played well against Alabama. Obviously, led them to wins over a good UTSA team and a West Virginia team that was really hungry for an upset. And Texas scored 34 in Lubbock. That was not Hudson's fault that they lost that game. So I think Hudson came in, did his job, kind of steered and steadied the ship, and made sure that this thing didn't completely unravel. And I did think that deserves to be recognized. Obviously, this is Bijan's award to lose, and Quinn Ewers, this is going to be his offense going forward, and deservedly so. But I don't think Hudson Card's contribution should be lost
Good point.
in the mix as we look ahead to the rest of the season and start preparing for what should be an exciting run with number 3 directing the ship and number 5 getting a lot of carries. But there's a lot of guys in this offense who deserve some love, whether that's Jordan Whittington. We're waiting for Xavier Worthy to be, I guess, a little bit more consistent. Jatavian Sanders has been an incredible find at the tight end position.
Amazing.
This offensive line for the most part has played pretty well, and that was a big question mark going into the season. So you probably pick 15 guys and have an argument, but number 5 is the clear choice. But I think Hudson Card deserves at least some recognition and for his contributions during a time when things could have gone south very quickly for this Texas team. Let's go to the Iowa State game this weekend, 11 o'clock kick on ABC. If you're watching it at home, at the stadium, get there by 10 o'clock whenever. Enjoy some Bevo Boulevard before you head into the stadium. This Iowa State team is 3-3, 0-3 in Big 12 play, which is a little bit surprising. But those 3 losses have all been very, very close calls to some good Baylor team, a good Kansas team, a good Kansas State team. So we don't really know what to think about the Cyclones. We do know they have won 3 straight in this series, including last year 30-7 in Ames. Absolute domination after halftime by the Cyclones. So is this a trap game for Texas, or can Texas even have trap games, considering what the Big 12 conference is and kind of Texas's how they're trying to get over the stumbles they had last season?
It's a good conference. I mean, there's not really a bad team in the conference unless you consider Oklahoma, and Oklahoma might be the worst team in the league. So, yeah, I don't think Texas is going to forget what happened at Ames last year. That was, I don't know if that wasn't the low point. Maybe it was losing at home to Kansas, but as I forget who told us that yesterday, but we had a lot of low moments. We had a lot of moments like that. So, you know, I just don't think Iowa State can muster enough offense to be a real strong, credible, dangerous threat. Yeah, I guess in a way they're all trap games when you're coming off 5-7. Now you're ranked for the second time this year, and you just crush your arch rival. Hunter Decker's their quarterback. I mean, he's got 11 touchdowns and 6 interceptions already. So and they haven't been very effective running the ball, but they do have a damn good defense. So to me, it's one of those games, guys, where it's going to be a real competitive first half at least, and then maybe Texas kind of wears them down at the end and starts putting up some points.
I just don't think they can muster up enough offense. They've struggled mightily to score points, and even if they do have the best rush defense in the league, Texas is going to get they're going to get enough rushing yards to set up Quinn Ewers and those good receivers to make some plays downfield. It feels like to me a 31-10 type game. I don't think they're afraid of Iowa State. As long as they take care of the ball, which is something they've been doing lately, they take care of the ball and get 1 or 2 takeaways. It should be one-way traffic. I don't think that they're in the mental place right now where they can be trapped because they know that they just aren't good enough to just show up and get a win. The leadership is good in that locker room. I love what I'm hearing from people like Bijan Robinson and Snacks and Ov and Deshaun Jameson. Those guys have been through the wars, and they don't want this thing to ever be like it was last year. So they got a little bite of that apple, and I don't think they're going to let Iowa State mess up the mix. They need to take care of business, and then we can really hone in on a real fun trip to Stillwater after that.
Yeah, I think Texas wins this game, although it will. I think Roshan Johnson described it as fun, and I think it will be fun to see this Texas run game face this Iowa State defense. See, a battle between a guy like Will McDonald, the fourth on Iowa State's defensive line, against some of these linemen. We saw Kelvin Banks mixing it up in the Oklahoma
Nice.
game against a very courageous Oklahoma defensive back who decided that Kelvin Banks was the guy he wanted to go after. I'd like to see a little bit of a matchup that's more, I guess, good on both sides with
Weight friendly.
Will versus Kelvin. That'll be fun to watch. But I think in the end, Texas is just a more talented team. Iowa State's going through a transition after having a lot of solid play from Brock Purdy over the year, and Breece Hall is doing his thing in the NFL now, and so this Iowa State team is kind of transitioning. They do have some skill players at the wide receiver position, so Texas is going to be tested in the passing game. But I just think overall this Texas team is just more talented, and but that's happened in the past. There's been some talented Texas teams that have been beaten by the Cyclones, but I don't think that's going to be the case this week. But we shall see, because this Texas team always keeps it interesting. Although the past couple of weeks they've they've covered and have kind of won comfortably. So we'll see if that trend also continues. I'm not sure what the exact line is for this game, but we'll see if Texas can cover. But that's
Well,
going to do it for us. We're going to get out of here. On Thursday, Kirk said they're going to drop their On Second Thought podcast. Do you guys have a tease? I know you guys were working on getting the guest. Do you guys want to tease anything for us, or do the people just have to tune in to find out?
show up and figure out what we got going, because it's always fun.
That's what I like to hear. Keep the people guessing, and
Keep
so
on their toes.
yeah, tune into Thursday for that. Obviously, throughout the week, we'll have plenty of content on statesman.com to get you ready for the Iowa State game on Saturday at 11 o'clock. And after that game finishes, tune back into statesman.com, and we'll have plenty of content to wrap up the game and get y'all ready for next week. We'll be back next Tuesday to talk all things Oklahoma State, Texas. And we appreciate you tuning in, whether it's on YouTube, podcast, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll see y'all down the road.